sciences of creation, we have the power of God. And well, that's just not, you can't be as strong as a creator, right? So that makes sense, you spread everybody out so that way the mistake from the pre-flood days doesn't happen again. Because I believe that before the flood, everybody was one language, as I said they were, after the flood, when the Tower of Babel happened, and then they were all separated. Well, before the flood, then that means that they were all still one language, they were all still one mind. And they all gained great power and did these great things. Atlantis, pre-flood, the amount of incredible things that we heard about Atlantis and Thoth and the stories from the Emerald Tablets and whatnot, well, that was pre-Diluvian. That was one language, one perfect. And what happened to them? Well, their hearts grew dark. Their power grew too great. And they just, either God got angry and flooded the world and got rid of them, out of, repentance. But God is perfect and God can't repent not. So that doesn't make sense. Now, what makes sense is they came across a power, from the powers of creation that they didn't understand. They utilized it, and what happened was they had actually induced a flood themselves upon the earth, and the flood waters did not recede far enough to show this land again. This land it's still underneath water. The land itself didn't sink into the water. The water rose above the land, and when it receded, it didn't recede all the way. It didn't recede back to its original level. No, it stayed high. So whatever they did, they, back in the pre-Diluvian days, if they busted open some kind of floodgate or something, whatever they did, it wasn't good, and it's still to this day here. So after the flood, when they separated everybody, I believe that was the time when faith was created. I believe that was the time when people took upon their personal perception, because now everybody has their own language. Everybody's confused. They don't have the memory of each other anymore. Everybody became confused as to who was who, and they all left with those with their same language, and they all went their own directions. Biblically speaking, it doesn't give a whole lot of detail about it. But from that point, I believe that each individual nation, each language that got separated, created a nation out of themselves, and each nation had their wise men or priests. And these wise men and priests were granted a singular knowledge out of this wisdom, out of this creational science, a single knowledge that their entire faith system is based off of. So if you look at the Egyptians, they had electromagnetism, like down to a T. They had it to a T, period. India, you look at the Hindu, they had vibration down to a T. The hums, the music, the vibration, everything, they've got it down. You look at Asian culture, they've got energy down to a T. They've got full energy, full control, chi, all of that to a T. You look at the Celtics, they've got force down to a T. You can see it within the knots. The knots show the force of energy, how energy moves are in those Celtic knots. They move just like that. Each one of these religions, faith-based systems, have a knowledge of sacred, ancient, creational science. And the way that they were able to save that knowledge, so that way it lasted and existed throughout all of time, and no wars could destroy the knowledge cannot be lost because it cannot be actually destroyed, was by creating a faith system based on that knowledge. And their faith system, and I'm not just saying that every single faith system is just a lie and it's just based off the knowledge, because everybody, once again, derived from one solitary place. Correct? Yeah, correct. Okay, cool. Now that we all agree, that's great. So I'm not going to sit here and try to split hairs as to, who's right and who's wrong. If everybody stopped putting a name and a face to God, we would all agree on faith. Period. Don't put a name and face to God anymore, and we'll all agree on faith. Why? Because when you're past that point, my God's greater, my God's better, this God, that God, this God. Well, there is no that God, this God, that God, this God, because God doesn't have a name or a face, and everybody recognizes that. So now God is this singular, universal, all-known, powerful being that we just don't understand, and we're not going to try to, because God is sacred. So who are we to try to understand it? No. Instead, let's utilize what he gave us. He gave us our minds. He gave us our brain. He gave us our free will. And with that, we're able to use these sciences and use this knowledge in the way that we already have. much like you guys have seen yourselves. I mean, some of the incredible stuff that we can do today. But the difference between the ancients and us today is the ancients were able to tap into everything that we could do today and so much more without destroying nature. They didn't need to go out there and create all these unnatural chemicals, all these unnatural plastics and elements that they shouldn't be, because they're unnatural. They're poisonous. They're not good. Back in the past, the ancients didn't do that. They fully harnessed everything that they knew about that was right here. Right here. So that's pretty much my deal on, symbolism. That it connects everything. Symbolism itself connects everything. If you follow it back, I self-taught I self-taught in a couple different, reading and writing different languages. Not very good at translating them, but I got Google for that, Yeah, yay me, Sounds like a millennial right there, right? You got Google for that. But I taught myself how to read and write 2 languages in less than a week. So Google this. Anyways, Coptic and Arabic, I decided to be my first 2 languages I wanted to learn, because Coptic and Arabic are 2 languages that every other languages stem from. Besides that, I'm going to teach myself Hebrew, Greek, Chaldean, and Latin. With those 6 languages right there, you have the keys to language itself. You can speak any language, understand any language, write in any language, read in any language, if you have those 6 right there. Sounds like a lot, because everybody's like, oh God, Spanish class was enough as it was. Well, for me personally, I could find somebody else to translate it. But if I can read and write it, I'm doing pretty good. At least I think so. So I did that in order for me to go back and look at some of these ancient texts myself, without any, BS interpretation between it. Somebody trying to correct somebody else's punctuation when everybody knows that even a single jingum, in a word back in the day, can completely change the entire word. So with none of that, I want to do direct translations and then find somebody else that actually speaks the language so they can tell me what it says in English, directly. May not make a whole lot of sense, but it's not for me to say. That's where the interpretation comes from. You read something that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, well, that's because it's not originally in English, so why should it make sense? Okay, you're right, it shouldn't make sense, but since I don't speak Hebrew or Latin or Chaldean, I only speak English, I got to figure out how to perceive this in a way that I understand without screwing anything up. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's super fun, because you start learning a lot of really, really cool stuff, especially when it comes to the ancient stories and culture, stuff like that. I look at the Egyptians now, and I don't see these pharaohs and all this stuff and this just hate and whatnot. No, I see it's incredible, what they did back in the day. And everybody says, pure slave drive, pure slave drive. No, Egypt wasn't like that. No, I'm sorry, but it wasn't this hardcore, horrible, disgusting, nasty, Holocaust type slave driven place. No, the people there lived there because it was the most grand place around ever, period, and they wanted to continue to build on it and be citizens of it. Yeah, there was oppression just like there is today, except back in the day they didn't have the laws like we did today. So yeah, they whipped the hell out of you, and yeah, you got flogged, and you might have gotten killed for certain things and thrown in prison and whatnot, because they just weren't as civilized, and I put that in serious quotes, like civilized as us today. So yeah, it would be a little bit different, but by no means do I believe that they had armies of Egyptians that went from land to land to land, pulling up thousands of people at a time, bringing them back to Egypt and forcing them to work and build their pyramid. No, not at all. It actually doesn't even make sense, What does make more sense is there were Egyptians there that were wickedly smart with the knowledge on how to tap into the frequencies of these things that would allow them to lift them, change their densities, or they would allow them to carve them much more easier. They allowed them to create these incredible feats of engineering and technology. And I believe that the people literally just wanted to be a part of it. If today if right now I heard that there was a country out there where somebody was bringing back the ancient days, and they had the money and the resources, or not even the money, they just had the land, and they're getting rid of, money altogether. They're creating a currency system based off of skill. You trade skill. I have a skill that you can utilize, and you have a skill I can utilize, and we'll trade skills and get done what we need to get done. Perfect. I don't lose money. I don't lose time and sleep. I don't lose half my life working for something that I'm just going to give away for stuff that I never get to see or use because I'm working too damn hard to use it. Anyways, if there was somebody out there right now that was going to build a pyramid, with the exact same specs, that was going to do the exact same thing with the exact same technology, I would be there in a flat second. I would be like, let me see this go down. Let me be here. I want to see sparks fly from the top of this pyramid. I want to see the energy that comes out of this, I want to be the guy that, holds that staff and, watches it power up and emit a beam of electricity or light or whatever it looks like or however it actually happened, and just see what it does. It would be killer, back to be able to do something like that. But unfortunately, that kind of energy is the absolute end of the elites as they know it. And the reason why I believe that the elites are all scrambling right now and why they're all super scared out of their mind is because we just left the age of Pisces, which was the age of the material man. Why we were all so concentrated on material stuff, and we stayed in this spiritual crutch for so many years. Now we're in the age of Aquarius, and look at all the stuff spiritually that's happened already, guys. All the stuff spiritually. Electromagnetism, the electric universe, dimensions, and the God particle, and stuff like that. All of a sudden, spirituality is starting to take this serious rise. For some reason. Why is that? Well, because we changed. This apocalypse that everybody wants to believe in, which doesn't actually translate into the end of days. This apocalypse, I believe that it already happened, and I believe that it was the end of an era and the beginning of a new era. The end of Pisces, the beginning of Aquarius, which we're in right now, the spiritual age. So just you guys watch. I think that things are going to take a serious turn, a spiritual turn. But then again, that's kind of scary too, because if you think about it, in Revelations, everything happens in a material way, and then all of a sudden Revelations in the Bible pops up and it says, it doesn't say this, but compared to the rest of the Bible, and it does say this, that the words of the Revelation are not to be personally interpreted at all. So when you read Revelations without any personal interpretation or any interpretation whatsoever, all of a sudden it gets wickedly like fantasy, sci-fi, hardcore spiritual. We've actually got dragons, coming back to life. We've got a third of the stars of the heavens being ripped apart. We've got monstrous beasts that look like locusts with tails of scorpions. It says there's no personal interpretation, and I totally get it. I totally get some people are going to say like, oh, there's helicopters and that are and then there's the Stinger missiles and stuff like that. But I'm like, well, that sounds a whole lot like personal interpretation to me, So when you don't personally interpret it and you actually read it as is, it sounds a lot more spiritual. And now that we're no longer in the material age and we're now in the age of Aquarius, aka the spiritual age, sounds like that kind of stuff, is going to start becoming more of a everyday thing, more of a normal thing, It's not going to be something that's questioned so much. It's just going to, of course, not right off the bat, not right now. I'm thinking more towards, the future. And I'm going to have a few lovely people that are going to message me later, the future doesn't exist and whatnot. And I could say, sure, that's absolutely true, but then again, I think it's BS because plenty of people have predicted the future, seen the future, and I believe that everybody has a small bit of precog in them when they dream. Because think about it, you're having a dream, right? And this is hypothetical, but you're at your friend's house, and then all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, your dream just shifts, and now you're on a train for some reason. It doesn't click in your mind because you're consciously in your dream and not in reality with a logical brain. So you're at your friend's house and all of a sudden you're on a train, and it doesn't make any sense. But all of a sudden you wake up because in your dream you start hearing the train horn, and then you wake up and your freaking alarm is going off. Well, Subconsciously, your mind knew to create a scenario of a dream in your mind that would lead up and perfectly match that alarm clock going off. Precog right there. Everybody's experienced it. I've experienced it. You've been in your dream. All of a sudden, mama's calling you to wake up. But in your dream, it's really, your school teacher trying to get you to pay attention in class. So you wake up and your mom's calling you. You're like, whoa, that was weird. Because your brain purposely created a scenario dream that would match that time of being waken up. I mean, an alarm clock, I could get how some people can argue, well, subconsciously the time that's going to happen. Well, what about somebody calling your name like I just said? How does your dream know that they were going to call your name at that time? And call your name, maybe not your sister's, your brother's name, if you have, brothers and sisters that live with you too. So everybody's got a little bit of precog in them. We have minds that are just beyond what we can possibly imagine right now because nobody's there yet. I mean, our whole lives, starting from education, we get into class and your teacher goes, which hand are you more comfortable with? Well, my left hand, or my right hand. And you're like, oh, okay, well, that's the hand that you need to use. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time teaching you both hands. It's take too much time. Okay, well, now you're taking away from one of the sides of my brain here. I mean, you're learning everything with the right side of my body going right dominant. I'm beefing up the left hemisphere of my brain. Well, what about over here? What about what about my creativeness? Just logic? I like that, but I want creativeness too. So, then you got the ambidextrous people, they're able to do everything, perfectly fine and whatnot. And if you actually do studies on it, which other people already have, people that are ambidextrous compared to people that are just left or right-handed, their reaction times are a lot faster, their memories are a lot better, they have overall longer lifespan, they are healthier, they have a smaller amount of genetic disorders in their family history and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff that goes on to this. So even as you right now, there's a big neurological study that went into this. I'm right-handed, dominated, straight up. So I've been trying everything with my left hand lately. Just been retraining my brain hardcore with my left hand. Everything that I can do with my right hand. And when I get really annoyed and I grab it with my right hand, I'm just like, I'm just going to jump. I stop and I'm like, man, I wasn't able to do that when I was a kid, so I can't do that now. I got to retrain my brain. Now, I'm telling you, my memory's getting a little bit better. My reaction time, it feels like it's getting better. I'm making better decisions in my life. I'm no longer making split, chance decisions and stuff like that. I'm no longer just immediately going, oh, that sounds cool, good, go to do it. No, now I actually think about things. I think thoroughly before I do things, and I don't know. I feel like there's just a major difference from just utilizing one side of your hemisphere compared to try to utilizing the entire bit. I mean, why do you think they say you can only use 10 to 14% of your brain power at any given time? Well, it's because they only allowed you to use so much of your brain power at any given time. So you don't utilize the muscle, then of course the muscle won't grow and you won't be able to utilize it like you would the one that you did feed. So, little something for you guys. Just do what you can and try to start retraining that other hemisphere of your brain. You've been right-handed your whole life, you've been logical your whole life and all that stuff. Start, teaching your left hand, start trying to get more creative about stuff, thinking about things in a much more different aspect. Look into retroductive reasoning. It's a lost art of reasoning. It needs to come back. Everybody goes based off of deductive reasoning and stuff like that, but there's always room for fault, whereas retroductive thinking is like outside of the box thinking. It's the thinking that allows philosophers and scientists and people to make groundbreaking, moves in life, is that retroductive thinking, because they're not thinking on a normal line. So they're not just thinking, 1 plus 1 and 1 plus 0 and stuff like that. No, they're thinking, well, technically 1 and 0 are not numbers. That's why that's one of the main reasons why they're chosen as binary code, because 1 and 0 technically aren't numbers. Think about it. Numbers is a multitude of things. Numbers, is multiple. So if you only have 1, you don't have any numbers because you just have the 1. So there's only the 1 that exists, so numbers don't exist. But as soon as you have 2, boom, well, now you have numbers because you have 2. So 2 is technically the very first number. Technically. So that kind of thinking is retroductive thinking. So just a small example, something that I've been working on is as well. Start studying etymology. Etymology, study of words and how language came to be. That right there will pretty much drive you so much further in life. Good buddy of mine, Jay, from the Sun and Moon Group, and Santos Bonacci, both of them, etymology, on point. Like, on point. Somebody's here says, learn as much about your body as possible. Absolutely, 100%. Anatomy, biology, so incredibly important. You have no idea. Did you guys know that the hair, all of this right here on the outside of your body, connects you to the rest of the world outside of your body? Your nervous system connects your brain to the inside. You're fully connected on everything. Your brain is fully connected without you even having to do anything. Your hair is connected directly to your nervous system. So your hair is your nervous system, but on the outside of the world. The true reason why people in Jamaica grow dreads, it's not because it's a natural lifestyle, you know. It's not because it looks cool, because it's not my partake. Some people love it, so I'm not going to go there. But you know, it's not for any of those reasons. It's actually a very practical, very real reason, because the hair, as it grows, you gain energy through your feet because of the earth. You're grounded to the earth, and your energy comes up through your feet into your body, and you expel energy from your hair, from the top of your head out of your hair, kind of like, you know, the nervous system. The energy, electrical pulses follow your nervous system inside your body. The energy follows your pulses outside of your body, same way with the, you know, your nervous system outside your body. So your hair, the reason why they grow dreads is because they think that when you have regular hair and it's not all knotted up, that you're losing all of that energy. But when your hair gets knotted up, they think that the energy stays there because it has nowhere to leave. The energy tries to leave, and it's like, oh, nope, can't leave there. Oh, wait, I can't leave here either. Oh, okay, I guess we're just going to continue to keep going and filling and filling and filling. That's why Jamaicans actually go dreads. So I love telling people that nowadays. Whenever I meet somebody with dreads and I ask them about it, and I don't use the shampoo and stuff, the stuff that's inside of it, it's just not natural and stuff like that, and I'm like, bro, you're gonna love this, check it out. You don't realize it, but the reason why you feel like you have so much energy and all this stuff, it's not just because of your diet, it's not just because of this, like, has a massive amount to do with the fact of what you're doing with your hair, as stupid as that sounds. That's one thing I love about the human body. The eye is so incredible. There's no such thing as the speed of light, because light doesn't really actually travel. See, energy travels and then hits something. The energy hits something, transfers energy into that, called electroradiation, and we see a momentary luminescence from that right there. So electroradiation. So light itself doesn't actually move. We're just seeing the reflection of the energy, which we know is lux, which is non-vibratory, pure light, compared to the lumen, which is vibratory, non-pure light. We live in that spectrum. Unfortunately, you got your light spectrum like this, right? And you've got your phi and your pi. Well, your phi would be on the radio side, a little bit lower over here. You got your pi on the gamma to cosmic side, infinite, and right in between, about that much right there, compared to this. That much. That's what we experience. That's the light spectrum right there. That's from blue to red. That's it. That's also the material world that we get to experience. That's right. Much like the internet is like a glacier or a iceberg, we only experience 10% of it. The rest of it is called the darknet. It's the unseen. Same thing with the regular world. We experience that much of reality, and the unseen is like that much. You've got the phi over on the lower end, where you've got your more lower vibratorial energies, stuff like that, more material and stuff. And then you got your higher energies, the gamma to the cosmic, your pi, on your pi side. Does that make more sense? The higher you go, infinitely into the light, infinitely into the lux, pi, infinite. Yeah. Anyway, just a couple of things. I was going to go live a few hours ago to ramble about all this different stuff. I actually ended up going upstairs and talking to my best friend's brother for a while, and just talked his ear off for like 45 minutes, and then just immediately I was like, I definitely should have been live, I don't know why I'm not doing this live right now, because I had it really going to all sorts of stuff, talking about all of my theories, and mostly symbology, stuff like that, the technology from the past, the Ankhs, the caduceus of Hermes, uh, all the technology that they utilized and used. This stuff to me is really important. I do got to say though, if you guys are going to start looking into this kind of stuff, symbology a lot more, because it's a lot more interesting. If you feel like you got a little bit more of a hold on it, like I do, I do got to give a word of wisdom, a cautionary warning that if you don't understand, you'll come across books like grimoires, codexes, stuff like that. Some of them are not good. They're really not. You got like the Grand Grimoire, or the Gospel of Satan, stuff like that. The Necronomicon. You don't want to. You don't want to mess with them. You just don't. Like, yeah, they're real. The power within them is very real. You really can learn how to, speak a word and kill somebody in their tracks, and you really can learn how to find a hidden treasure. But guess what? You're selling your soul to it. Straight up, you're not doing good. It is absolute hell that you're going to walk into. Plain and simple. But there's also good ones, like the Codex of Abramelin the Mage, the Picatrix, the Black Play, the Black Pellet, or Pele. These are a few ones that are pretty interesting, and if you start looking into them, you look at the symbolism. I'll get to that in a second, Sergio and Anuka. You get to the symbolism behind it, and you start reading it, and you start getting into it. I just want to say, before you try to practice any of it, if you are, and a lot of people are going to get really mad at me for saying this, because, sorcery's bad, but guess what? There's something called magica, and there's something called ferica. Magica is what God created. God created all magic, so it's all good. Ferica is taking the knowledge of God, using it, and calling yourself divine. That's not good. That's bad. Creating bad energy, black magic, that kind of stuff. Necromancy, death magic. That's Ferica. Ferica. Pharisee. Pharaoh. Not good. All bad. Pharisee. Ferica. Get it? Pharisees being the false priests back in the day, like the Egyptian priests were known as Pharisees of the pharaohs, because they did the evil magic. They did the same magic that, the staff of Moses was able to do, but the staff of Moses was much more stronger and much more greater. Why? Because the staff of Moses was magica. The Pharisees' staffs were ferica. Big difference. So before everybody gets mad at me for saying, like, hey, if you want to practice, do some research, or listen to me, because I actually know a little bit about what I'm talking to do, especially when it comes to a lot of the people. And call me ignorant, whatever you want, feel free to, but I actually do have an understanding about this, because I'm not practicing any of it, because I realize that I don't know the time of day. I don't know the astronomical alignments. I don't know the correct materials. I don't know the correct directions, as in north, south, east, west, stuff like that. And I don't even know the directions in which, to do these things in the specific order. I don't know the correct symbols or the words to be said. I don't know how to pronounce them as well. So I don't practice these things. And I suggest that you don't either, because I guarantee that 100% of the people listening to this right now doesn't. And the reason why I say that is because the people that do understand this stuff, they would never do what I'm doing. Ever. 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 Because there's societies out there that pay attention to this kind of stuff. And if you start releasing this kind of stuff to the public, you will die. Period. I mean, there's a reason why this is sacred knowledge, and it's been hidden and kept so secret and so safe for so many years, and wars have been started to steal this knowledge. Like, there's a reason why it's sacred. Why, when you join a master mage or something like that, and they swear you to an oath of death never to release these secrets, and they make you write your journals and grimoires in a secret code that only you know, why do they do all that? Well, there's a reason. Me, personally, I'm that guy that's going to be like, I don't really care what the reason is. I just want everybody to have an equal chance, an equal opportunity to get the most out of what we were meant to be. We were created to be as great as we possibly could. And how could we be that great if the knowledge that was originally used to create us is taken from us and then only given to who others feel is right to? I mean, who are these guys, who are these grandmasters and these priests and whatnot to say that I'm not okay enough to learn these things and to do these things? If I had this knowledge and I could do the things that I know that's possible, I would literally reshape and change so many different things in this world. The monetary system, I'd get rid of it. Gone. Done. Ain't no such thing as material exchange ever again, unless you're saying like, hey, that's a pretty flower, I'll trade you a rose for your tulip. Oh, thanks. You know, as like a gift type thing. But material exchange for necessity would never happen again. Ever. In my world, it just wouldn't. Anything natural, ownership of anything natural, unthinkable. Completely unthinkable. Anything natural should just be free. It should just be for us. Apparently collecting rainwater, illegal. In Germany, you have to pay for water, even if you don't collect it. So the water that falls on the ground and goes into the drains, they make people in Germany pay for that. I'd be really pissed off if they did that to us here. But then again, Flint, Michigan, years worth of poisonous water like they have, no change. Good God, government. And then what? Last night, midnight, because they couldn't figure nothing out, the government shut down. The federal government of the United States of America shut down, and it stopped. So every single federal government type agency and whatnot ended last night. So last night, if you had wanted to commit a federal crime, it would have been the time. You want to go ahead and ship 200 pounds of marijuana across state borders at that time, you would have been perfectly fine and legal doing it, because guess what? There was nobody there to back you up, and there was no laws that existed technically at this time. Now, this has happened a couple times before, and people have said that, like, oh, this happened back 2009, 2007, 2013. I remember these. I remember that. The reason why it's a big deal is because we're a country. A country. At that, we're known as the most powerful country in the world. Our president is known as the most powerful man, the most powerful human being in the world. That's what they call him. As much as I don't like Trump and our government and the way that they run things, that's the way that it is in the world, and they are the most powerful. So if they're the most powerful and we are that great and everything, how is it so damn easy for them to shut down? I don't get that. I don't get that at all. Everybody's like, oh, it's happened before, it's not going to be a big deal. I get it's not going to be a big deal. It may not change much. It may not, it's just a little hiccup, a little bump in the road, whatever. It's the fact that our government, from the strongest, most powerful country in the entire world, shuts down when there's countries out there, in third world countries, and their little governments and their little politics and whatnot are completely survivable. In Sweden, I believe it's Sweden, correct me if I'm wrong, they actually allow children into their Congress. And look at them. They don't do war. They don't do a lot of that stuff that we do. They're pretty damn chill over there. America get a few different things changed, that's for sure. Starting with Trump. Change Trump. And I guess some people like Trump. I get that, but to me, we don't need a reality TV star to run a country. We don't need a businessman to run our country. Okay, no. We also don't need a soldier. We don't need a soldier to be running our country either, because we don't need some, badass Marine brute going in there ready to just go take heads off. I know my little brother's out there going, hoorah, but hey, dude, we don't need that. Violence begets violence. Doesn't do nobody good. Plain and simple, What we do need, I would say, is a collection of people, to put any kind of amount of power on any single solitary individual is an automatic failure when it comes to the founding fathers of this country. When they decided to give power to a single man and call him president and let that person rule as a single entity throughout the country, they messed up. They failed us. I get that we have Congress and all that stuff, and it's really a group of people and all that stuff, but I'm talking about Just people. Not politicians, not people that wake up every single day with, corruption and crap on their mind. I'm talking about mothers, fathers, construction workers, doctors, everyday people just like us. People that actually are living here, people that actually have to deal with the stuff, you know. That's the kind of stuff that we need, in my own personal opinion. Uh, yeah, I've been going on quite a bit about a bunch of random different stuff, my symbology and whatnot. I figure I'm still on, I'm still live, still a few people watching right now. I've got in front of me my current theories of everything. So, I mean, I could jump into that just a little bit, kind of skim through there. You got the theory of, oh, wait, hey, I don't want to be rude. Sergio, you asked me about the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki are closely, historically, they are, what is the word I'm looking for? How about this? I can't think of the word. Look up the Chaldeans. Look up the Chaldeans, aka the Anunnaki. So yeah, even history's got a lot of stuff like that all mixed up for us. I don't think the Anunnaki were pre-Babylonian, well, actually I can't say that. I don't think the Anunnaki are otherworldly. I'll say that. I believe that the Anunnaki were pre-flood civilization of people. That when the flood happened, I don't think the flood was worldwide either, honestly. There's no evidence to support that whatsoever. The flood happened absolutely everywhere in the entire world. All of the evidence actually points to the flood being centralized. Let me see, what else do we got? Washington, D.C., not even U.S. soil. Yeah, true. That is actually true. That's District of Columbia. Did you guys also know that there, who is it? I think it's the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is a completely and totally separate entity from our government. Our government cannot stop or do anything or step in or anything on what the Federal Reserve does. Did you know that? I was watching something. It was an old clip that somebody was able to save, and I found it on YouTube. And it was an old guy who was, I'm guessing, some senior official. He wasn't the leader or nothing, but he was a senior official of the Federal Reserve. And the person interviewing said something to him, and he looked at him and he said, "There is not a single person on this earth that can stop us in what we do." And I'm just thinking in the back of my head, I'm like, the Federal Reserve, I'm like, didn't the Rothschilds create that? And aren't the Rothschilds like British or English? They're not even American. And doesn't the Queen like answer to the Rothschilds, or the Rothschilds to the Queen? So technically the Queen has a branch of government here in the United States that has more power than our current government, and our current government can't do anything about it? What? So the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., where the Federal Reserve is actually owned by the Queen, the monarchy. So you're telling me that America is still owned and worked by the monarchy? No way. So this isn't a dictatorship? Oh my God. So now your voting and everything starts to make a little bit more sense, right? Why everybody realizes that they voted for a certain person and that person didn't really get elected, but the other guy that everybody freaking hated, he did. Well, now it starts to make a little bit more sense now, right? Because this isn't a dictatorship. We live in a monarchy, and we are pretty much all under the rule of the Queen. Yeah, that sucks, but it is what it is. Everybody can say what they want, America, yay, America, yeah, greatest country ever, woohoo, yeah. Once upon a time, America was absolutely the greatest country ever. We did things. We conquered, we rose above. We never bent to terrorists. We never backed down. Like, we had a backbone once upon a time. We truly did. And then, all of a sudden, we started getting these people in office that they started getting, the corruption just started getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, every time North Korea, cries, we're sending them everything that they ask for, yet we don't negotiate with terrorists. Okay. Uh, uh, Let me see. Gaddafi. Ooh, I was just reading about Gaddafi in Libya. Apparently, Gaddafi was not as bad as everybody says he was. This guy had like liberated his people from like American tyranny in such a hardcore way that America turned this guy into this disgusting, horrible being, and even his own people turned against him. Even his own people. When I mean, like, it's kind of like ISIS. If you're anybody that's anybody in the truther community, you know that ISIS is CIA operatives. Like, we all know that. Okay, so like ISIS, it would be the same thing as being pissed off at the Muslim community for ISIS when everybody knows damn well that ISIS is Americans. You know, it's the same freaking thing. Like, it's let's start looking at who the real jerks are, who the real beasts are. Hello, it's the CIA. You know, everybody's like, well, it's just straight up the government. You know, it's the government, it's the feds. It's not. Sorry to say, it's the CIA and the Federal Reserve. No joke. The CIA has run all Black Ops. They are the dirty pond. They've been outed several different times, for crying out loud. I mean, it's American regular knowledge. You could look it up if you want right now. It was the CIA that got the entire cocaine thing started in the United States in order to get untraceable money to fund a terrorist organization in I forget. It's somewhere in Africa, and they needed to overthrow that ruler in that area in order for them to have resource rights there. So what did they do? They funded this terrorist organization by flooding America with drugs, so that way it couldn't be traced back to the government. So that way the guys that they helped throw the coup d'état, those guys now they're in charge of that area, and they say, hey, we love Americans. They gave us all the money and stuff we needed to kill our own government so we could rule. You can go ahead and drill here and take all the resources you want. No problem. And the American government is like, you're damn right it's no problem, because we would have came in there and done it anyways. But now we don't have to make a big scene about it. Now there doesn't have to be a war. There you go, CIA. Good job, guys. Jerks. Not just that, CIA, marijuana. Marijuana is the CIA's like brainchild on why it's a war. Marijuana before the CIA was a given ingredient in damn near all medication for pain. Damn near all medication for pain. There was cannabis indica, and all of a sudden the government stepped in. They were like, well, it's not cannabis indica anymore. We need to make it sound more sinister. But it's just going to be called marijuana. It makes it sound a little more minister. And this is for your etymology, guys. If you guys know etymology, you go ahead and step in on that one, because I know I've heard it before. But marijuana, you break that down pretty good, and it's not bueno. It's negative. So yeah, marijuana. That's another brainchild. Methamphetamines created by the German government to create super soldiers. Americans got their hands on it. CIA saw another good way to make some good Black Ops money. Yeah, man, it's bad, and our government knows it. They've called them out for it. It's regular. Everybody knows about it. The news are. It's normal. And then at that, our own president, the guy that runs the country, once again, the singular man with all the power, the most powerful man in the world, he straight calls the CNN and all these news channels fake news. But they're still around. The companies haven't been disbanded. The CEOs and all the people that run the show, they haven't been arrested for propaganda and misinformation to the most epic possible level imaginable by creating hate and fear and terror. I mean, that's terrorist. Isn't that domestic terrorism? Aren't we supposed to defend against foreign and domestic terrorism? Domestic terrorism being, say, if a group of hackers hacked into the television system and showed up on everybody's television that, this was going down and or whatever was happening, and even if it was fake, if they were faking some kind of like country invasion, all of a sudden all this mass pandemic, this fear gets spread everywhere. People start doing stupid things out of fear, you know? They catch up with these guys, these hackers, and these hackers were just like, we were just putting on a show. What are you talking about? We don't understand. It was TV. Same thing that the news channels do. It's fake news, isn't it? Well, why are we getting domestic terrorist charges? Why are these guys still in office? Why are they still running TV and creating these fake news stories and stuff like that? You know? That's a reason. Because the president doesn't really run anything at all. Monarchy. Yeah, I originally started this video just to tell everybody about my symbol idea. That's, my theory on symbolism. But I guess it kind of turned into a little bit of a rant and rave. I never do this much anyways, and I think that I need to start doing a little bit more often, so that way I can start explaining a lot of my stuff. I'm gonna start doing that actually, so that way I can break down my entire theory system for you guys, so you guys can understand exactly what I understand when I talk about stuff. Because I know a lot of people get kind of pissy with me and stuff when I start using words like centrifugal and reciprocating and hyperboloid and hypertoroidal and stuff like that. But I'm like, when you're talking about the creation stuff, and I'm like literally dumbing it down as much as I possibly can. And I'm only saying dumbing it down because I can't break it down any further. I mean, I've literally gone to the actual elemental breakdown of the creation of the universe. I can't break it down any further for you. If I did break it down a lot further, which I've tried to do before, it actually bugged people more because I would go way off subject. I'd be sitting there explaining something and somebody'd be like, well, what does that mean? And I'd be like, okay, well, that means this. Well, what does that mean then? Okay, so that means this, and that actually happens because of this. Wait, what were we talking about before? Yeah, so best things best. When that happened to me, what I did is I grabbed a piece of paper and a pencil, and every word that I didn't understand or didn't know, I wrote it down. I went back to it later. I watched a video on it. I looked up the definition on it. I had it explained to me in 3 different ways, so that way I fully felt like I had a complete, total understanding of that word, its inner and outer workings, the etymology behind it, and everything. Then I would go back and I would reread or rewatch what I didn't understand at all before, and it would be as if I was talking to you guys like right now. Everything I'm saying you understand. There's no foreign language here. So that's just another little bit of advice. If you guys want to articulate your palate a little bit, try to beef up that vocabulary that you got. It's a great way to do it. One thing, I hated it in school. Wake up, go to school, go to English class. First thing you do, open up your notebook, vocabulary section, go over the 20 words from last week and this and that. I hated that so much. But instead of doing that, every now and then I'll find a good word and I'll look it up. Just it makes me feel a little bit better about what I'm reading. I actually understand what I'm doing, what I'm reading. So anyways, I've got my theory of ether. What the ether is. I've got my theory of fire, what fire is, how it works, how it moves, why it is, why we see it, why we feel it. I got theories of light, 3 different theories, my own personal theory, Eric Dollard's theory, and Ken Wheeler's theory. Based off of Ken Wheeler, Eric Dollard, and scientifically, as well as Steinmetz, Heaviside. Let me see who else. There's a couple more people that I was looking at, but all these people combined, I kind of was able to throw together my own theories on light. I've got the theory of the creation formula, and which I actually just realized recently. I don't know if any of you guys have already seen it before, but I had a video about a creation formula, and it had something just like my little cool little poster board like this right here, except it was completely full of equations and all sorts of stuff that didn't make any sense to anybody because I literally created it out of nothing. I created all the little symbols and stuff because it was just a way for me to visualize the actual equation. Like frequency equals energy over time, etc., etc. So I realized that I have found the creation formula for the material plane. when I was showing you guys earlier, we got reality like this, and we experienced that. Well, I found that creation formula right there. Just that little bit right there. That's what I found. All of that, I, I'm still working towards it, guys. I'm still working really hard. That's when I start talking about magnetism and lux and pure light, non-vibratory plane. That's when I'm starting to talk about the phi to pi area that we don't live in. So yeah, I'm pretty well pretty well educated as far as our material plane, but anything unseen, I'm still working on. So everybody knows what a vortex is, correct? We all know what a vortex is, aka like a tornado. So a tornado, as it spins, it has a point on the bottom, and then it widens up at the top. And then as it spins, it takes everything from outside of it and forces it into that center of it, right? There's got that center column right down in the center. Well, that center column is that column of equilibrium that's produced because of the point of inertia from the energy. Energy flows in a double helix to halo wave formation. All right, so double helix, you guys know what a double helix is, right? It's your DNA. The halo wave formation is like a scroll. So you see, you got the scroll. So as it spins, it comes up, and when it hits something, as if it's not just free spinning, it hits it, goes the halo wave back into its spin, back into its regular spin. So when you got the energy just in its regular free form spin, and it's just moving, it's along with the Earthling currents and whatnot, and if there's a point of inertia, the perturbation in the ether, point of inertia, all of a sudden that energy seeks that point of inertia. It wants stillness, constantly moving, constantly vibrating, constantly. It wants to rest once it comes to still. So it seeks that point of inertia. So now all of a sudden you've got this double helix, and then it just comes in and it seeks that point of inertia. So it comes down and it meets at that point, and the tip of it still comes in. So it creates this vortex, right? Now, when the energy hits that, when it comes down and it hits that point of inertia, since it's just a point of inertia and there's nothing, there's actually nothing there. It's a point of nothingness, which is what magnetism is. It can't be filled. It can't expel. It can't do any of that. So it's just a point of nothingness. So the energy seeks it, but when it actually finally gets to it, it's repelled out, right? So all of a sudden it's repelled out, but because of the force of the vortex, kind of like a tornado sucking everything in, it gets pulled out and then it gets sucked right back in. So now all of a sudden you got kind of like this torus, right? But inside this torus, you've got a singular vortex from this torus, right? You don't have the hyperboloid inside of the torus with only one. Now, if you have two toruses, one with the vortex going down like this, and one with the vortex going up like this, when they come and they meet, kind of like Earth, it creates a plane of equilibrium in between the two toruses, and the 2 points, the 2 vortices that connect, creates a hyperboloid, or what you guys see right there. What does that look like? The infinity symbol? Yeah. It's got the hyperboloid right there in the middle. The infinity symbol, why is it the infinity symbol? Why does that make sense? Well, because it's an infinite cycle, unending, perpetual motion, right? But in between these 2 points, you've got a plane of equilibrium. Think about, let me see. I don't really have anything. So you've got one torus right here, the other torus right here. And when they meet, just like that, in between, you've got a plane of equilibrium, right? So that plane, constant energy bombarding it, being hit, and then it just, gets denser. Next thing you know, you've got what I like to call elemental material. I don't really use the words particles or molecules, or at least I try not to, because it's more deceiving than it is truthful. I call it elemental material because at the basis of everything, if you had a good enough microscope, everything is vibrating energy. Everything. You take the most solid thing you could possibly find, and at its most basis, when you get down in there, it's vibrating energy. So technically, all matter is energy. It's elemental material. So it creates a plane of elemental material. Now, as above, so below, right? Well, now that's going to make a little bit more sense because you've got your energy from above and your energy from below. So in the middle, naturally, you would get like this kind of structure that would look like a mountain right in the middle, because that's where the energy, the equilibrium, the column of equilibrium, stillness, energy could build up right there without getting shot out all over the place. It'd actually come to rest, dense up. So now you got these columns. Guess what's in the middle of what we call flat Earth? Mount Meru. Big, huge mountain. How did that happen? Well, now it makes more sense, right? You got the two toroidal field, or the two toruses, they meet in the middle. You got the hyperboloid in the center with the the column of equilibrium in the center, so allowing everything to settle, and you're creating the plane right here around it. But in the middle, in the center column, in the center of the vortexes, you start building up this mountain. You got the Mount Meru right there. Your magnetic north too, your magnetic center. Why? Because the point of inertia, it's in the center. It's right there. That's why when people say there's a North Pole, South Pole, well, why is it that the further you get from the North Pole and closer you get to the South Pole, why does the compass not all of a sudden switch direction? Or halfway through? Because technically the other pole from the South Pole should become the stronger pole, right? So now the North Pole wouldn't work out very much. But that doesn't happen. Now, see, the further away you get from the North Pole, no matter what, your compass is always going to point north. Why is that? Because it is a single point of inertia. That point of inertia is dead center north. North is center. Mount Meru, that plane. So, yeah, I mean that's flat Earth for me. That's my explanation of flat Earth. I don't go based off of a lot of what other people say. So yeah, the firmament. You guys may like this one. My firmament definition. If you've never heard of electrolysis. Electrolysis is a science where you induce electricity into water, kind of like what I was telling you guys earlier about the wand and the magician and whatnot. You induce electricity into water between two plates, and the electricity bounces from one plate to the other, and the water in between is getting ripped apart by the electrical current. So the elemental materials get separated from oxygen to hydrogen, and you're able to utilize the hydrogen if you want to, build a generator for like your car, or a heater in your house, or propane system, something like that. You totally can, by the way. You run any kind of gas-made system on hydrogen. It's stronger and cleaner. It's dangerous because, of course, it's gas. So anybody that says, "Oh, well, it's more dangerous of a gas," all gas is dangerous. It's all combustible. It'll all kill you. Okay, just don't be stupid around it. Just like you're not stupid around propane, don't be stupid around hydrogen. You'll be just fine. The only difference is that you're not destroying the land and creating some false, unnatural chemical that's, powering all your stuff, that's letting off all this nasty soot and pollution and whatnot. Instead, you're using water that's actually breaking down into hydrogen and oxygen, which it does naturally in the world anyways, that's actually helping to clean and filtrate your world. So this fuel system was like the opposite of pollution, and it's natural. Yet for some reason, it's been hidden from everybody. There's a guy back in the day, he created an HHO generator powerful enough to power your vehicle, and it would take 1 gallon of water to get you about 200 miles. This generator that he created was so incredible because it was the size of a spark plug. As a matter of fact, it replaced one of your spark plugs. You took one spark plug out, replaced it with this generator, and hooked the other bit up to your air intake, and that's it. That's all you did, literally. And your car ran off of water. Ridiculous. And then I personally thought of another idea through my super condensation works that I've been dealing with. While you're driving, there could be special slots built into the car with copper tubing that is packed with glass. That'll allow the air to get collected in there, super condensate, turn into water, and then that water could be dripped into a reservoir for your HHO generator to, gas up your car. So effectively, as you drive, you're refueling your car. So you never really have to stop driving. You never really have to stop refueling. The only thing you really have to worry about is oil, because when you're working with mechanical stuff, oil, plain and simple, just wears down after a while, With that idea, I mean, you can literally have airplanes, boats, any vehicle imaginable where they can run day and night nonstop and never have to stop. So you could fly nonstop for the rest of your life. You can take a tiny little skipper boat and go across the entire ocean without worrying about fuel. I wouldn't do it. I have a serious fear of the ocean, but it would be cool. Technology like that's the stuff that I love. Yeah, like I said, I get sidetracked really easily. We were talking about the flat earth. So my definition of flat earth, I already told you guys all that stuff rather than, how everybody else thinks about it. And then I got past that, didn't I? Jeez. I need some, like, coffee or something. Oh yeah, the waters, the firmament. Okay, I'm sorry guys, electrolysis. So I told you guys about electrolysis, what electrolysis does. All right, now, think of the primal waters. The waters all around us. Now think of the father, the primal mother, prima materia, primal material, aka the female, the primal female, and then the primal male, the primal father, the primal source energy, inseminated the mom, or the female. Now, when you do that, think about energy, aka electricity, going into the water. Now, all of a sudden, it'll create this bubble inside of the water of oxygen and hydrogen. Right? Now, hydrogen's more buoyant than oxygen, so it would naturally go to the outside. So it would create a sort of cocoon around the oxygen that would stay central within the center of it. As this process continued, since it's completely covered by the primal waters all around, and to my knowledge, the primal waters are just as conscious as the primal source. So however it happened, through the process. When you pressurize hydrogen, it becomes a metallicized crystalline structure. So when we think about, they say the firmament has like a melted glass crystalline like look to it, and then hydrogen, when it's solidified and becomes metallic hydrogen, has a metallic crystalline look to it, so yeah. So that would make sense. So through electrolysis, I believe that the firmament was created. Now you got the firmament. All of a sudden, you got this bubble of water. Well, from that happening, there was a perturbation, right? Once again, there's a perturbation in the water, creates that bubble, zip, poof. And now from that's a big perturbation. Now you've got energy flowing. Energy's like, hey, point of inertia, let's go. Now you've got this torus, and you got the second one underneath too. And then when they meet, all of a sudden you got this plane of inertia that gets created within it. And all of this follows really closely with like how females give birth and have children and stuff. You think about it, a female within the womb, creates that little bubble inside the womb, and then inside that bubble it starts with a singular cell, aka the sperm. Then it goes to 2 cells, 4 cells, 8 cells, 16 cells, 32 cells, 70, keep going. So you got all these cells. Well, it eventually grows and turns into one solitary being, a single solitary conscious being, right? Well, think about Earth. The primal father inseminated the primal mother. The energy inseminated the water, the primal material. And then out of that came that bubble, just like inside of a female. Inside of that bubble, just like the solitary cell that, started everything off, you have the solitary human, the first man that was created. And then from that man, the rib was taken, so kind of like a cell divides itself into from that man, there was a rib taken, and another person, another cell was created. And then all of a sudden, those 2 cells, from each other, they created more cells, more people, and now more people and more people. So if you think about it, our little Earth right here, in the grand scheme of the primal mother and father, every single human being in the entire Earth and everything held within is literally the birth child of creation. All of us combined as one single solitary consciousness growing and working to become one. That's what we're like. That's what I see everything is. Like, that grand question, like, why do we all exist? Why are we all here? Well, let me tell you something here, you know. You've got the mother and the father, and when two people love each other in a cosmic scale, you get a planet. uh, yeah, I don't mean to make that sound so childish like that, but you know, just trying to have some fun. Um, I don't know if that makes any sense to you guys. Awesome. If not, awesome. It makes sense to me. It's how I'm able to literally get everything. Research sonoluminescence, sound becoming light and water. Yes, sonoluminescence. That's what I'm talking about, Ryan. Sonoluminescence. Well, that's just sound becoming light and water. But Ryan, if you actually look it up, there's many kinds of luminescence. You've got sonoluminescence, chemiluminescence, electrochemiluminescence, electroluminescence. You've got bioluminescence, fluoroluminescence. So many different kinds. So um, uh, with me, I was thinking the same thing. I said, sonoluminescence at